Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's podcast with me, Jay Wheatley, and my friend and co-host, Zoe Hawkins.
Hello, everybody. Great to be back for another episode this week. And we're going to be talking to you about using coaching skills in the workplace. We have spent a lot of time on the podcast so far talking about becoming a coach and setting up coaching businesses. We haven't actually spent a lot of time talking about how you integrate and use coaching within your role and within your organizations. And of course, it's such a huge field where coaching is so valuable because obviously every conversation has the potential to be a coaching conversation if the situation warrants it. So that's what we want to spend some time on today.
Yeah, and we also believe that coaching is a core leadership skill. And when we talk about leadership, we think about people at all levels of organizations being leaders.
And we started our journey, didn't we, as leaders? We had HR roles when we trained to become a coach. We started by integrating coaching within the roles in our organization. And I know as I was training to be a coach, and shortly after I finished, I reached out to people within my organization saying, I'm able to offer some coaching. Who would be interested in. So many people came forward looking to access the service of coaching. And, what we know is that to bring an external coach into the organization is an investment. It's an absolutely worthy investment because of the impact that those leaders can have through the organization. But not necessarily everybody is going to be able to have access to a coach because of budget restrictions. So where you're able to train and develop your own internal coaches to be able to support people, it's such a great way to both get a return on investment from the initial investment of training, but also really help leaders to grow and reach into their potential and try different ways of working. So many different places that coaching can have an impact. And maybe we should talk about a few of those different scenarios of where you can use coaching to bring that to life.
Yeah, lots and lots of different scenarios. So if we think about motivating a team, so if you have a team, how do you do that well? How do you develop a high performing team? But not a high performing team isn't just one that, performs really well, achieves the goals that they're set, but also they really enjoy what they do and there are strong relationships, they're resilient. And I think great leaders, great team leaders take time to understand what it is that motivates each person within their team. They have the ability to understand team dynamics. You might have really strong individual players, but actually how do you create the spaces and the opportunities for those individuals to come together really well as a team? And that also requires an understanding of what they believe about the team themselves, about each other, and all of the things that we've talked about, on different podcasts or YouTube episodes before.
I think as a leader, and leader as coach, having a real curiosity for human behavior is something you develop as you train in coaching. And as you said there with the team dynamics, it's understanding why people do things the way that they do and understanding how people act and respond. And in coaching training, obviously you get a number of different tools and techniques to be able to help you to do that. So you're no longer really just a leader like trying your best and kind of flexing. It really supports you to have a really deep understanding of behavior and the different interactions that can happen in a team, plus having tools and techniques to be able to facilitate change and deepen relationships. And so, of course, when you have an environment where people understand each other and you're connected and you share common values and you support each other, performance is obviously going to increase because you're not distracted by conflict or other things that are going on, or you're not misaligned to the vision and mission that team is there for. So, leaders as coaches have a real influence over the way that people experience their team environment.
Yeah, and so many times, even when I've been coaching individuals or leaders, they feel like they're winging it. And when team members come and talk to them or colleagues about things that are really important to them, that have triggered a range of emotions, often managers feel like, oh, I don't know if I should go there. I don't feel equipped to go there. I don't know, is that my place? And I don't want to start the conversation in case it goes somewhere really deep and I don't feel equipped. So I think that, learning about coaching skills, techniques, tools actually helps to build confidence of leaders and individuals in an organizational context. And it's been really great to see that one of the outcomes of the pandemic has been that well-being has moved much further up as a priority on the agenda of organizations, because so much more is needed. We spend so much time either at work physically or at least in our roles, and even working from home, it's great and I love it, but I know it's not easy for everybody, and that can create, triggers for other people. And, mental health first aid training is great in one respect, because organizations are investing in developing the understanding of people, and normalizing the fact that we all have mental health, and our mental health changes throughout any given day, for example. But one of the things that concerns me is that on that training, you're not really taught about how to create a safe container for the conversation. And for me, that is a big gap, and that is a place where coaching comes in. And then having that knowledge about different mental health things then can complement coaching. But for me, the coaching training and of those skills and all those core competencies that we've talked about in other podcasts or YouTube videos, they're the foundations, and it's really important that those are in place.
Because you mentioned there about building confidence, and obviously coaching training does more than build confidence, it builds competence. And there's never been a greater need, I believe, for leaders to be able to lead with compassion and courage, to be able to step into those conversations about well-being. And I think when you reflect on everyday life, like we're coaches, so we're used to holding spaces for people to experience big emotions. And we know that people in the workplace experience big emotions because they come to coaching and they share the overwhelm, the stress, the anxiety, as well as all the happy stuff. But when we're talking about well-being and mental health first aid in particular, it isn't just about understanding what someone's going through and being able to refer. It's about inviting that emotion out and making it okay that people can share and be vulnerable, knowing that you can hold space and resource, provide a resourcing place for people to work through some of those emotions. Because I believe workplaces contribute to the emotions that people are experiencing. And so there's a responsibility that workplaces also hold space for people to be able to work through that stuff as well. And most people, aren't equipped to be able to hold space for people experiencing big emotions, because us as human beings often don't like to experience those emotions ourselves. And so if we can't experience them ourselves, we're definitely not equipped to help others when they are experiencing theirs. And coaching training helps you to do that in a very safe and ethical way as a normal part of conversation, and making those sorts of conversations incredibly accessible.
And what we're talking about here is a whole person approach, really. So recognizing that, yes, we have our roles, we also have our lives outside of work, and the two are totally interrelated. And when I work with CEOs or those on the CEO pathway, they're often amazed that they say, can we talk about my relationship with my son? Like, it will have been mentioned or come up, as of course we can talk about that. And then we can also talk about how that is impacting or related to how you're showing up in your role. And when we think about using coaching skills in the workplace, and they think about, people can feel lonely in the workplace, and coaching can provide connection. It can also provide acceptance. It can provide a sense of belonging and nurturing as well. So I think, they are basic human needs that aren't always fulfilled, in an organizational context. You think about people clocking in and clocking out, and that sense of feeling like, a number, and would anybody know if I wasn't here? And then if we think about senior leadership positions, people, in director roles, for example, feeling like, who do I talk to say, I don't really know how to do this role? I've never done it before. I'm feeling exhausted that we're going through all of this change, and I'm creating the positivity, and I'm bringing the optimism and the strategy. And actually, I've got all of this other stuff going on. And if you feel when you're in that role that you can't share that with, your support is your manager. That's their role, is to support you and to encourage you. But if you feel that you need to deal with that on your own, whilst also having to create this image of perfectionism, if you like, for others, that obviously is going to create a strain. So using coaching skills can be helpful for you, for yourself in that role, as well as being able to support those around you. And it also helps you to challenge, doesn't it? When you have those coaching skills, the knowledge of behavior, the knowledge of relationships, the psychodynamic aspects to that, it can really equip you to challenge and influence much more effectively.
Yeah. And the reality is, the more senior you get, the less time your manager is going to have for you, and the more sort of self-sufficient you're expected to be. It doesn't necessarily make it easy, but that's a great place where coaching skills can help you to self-coach as well as help others. And I think that piece around challenge is really important, because fundamentally coaching skills help you to enable people to unlock their potential. I think, it sounds cliche, but it is one of the core strap lines of coaching, which is about unlocking people's potential. And you as the leader, that's your fundamental job, is to help people to be as effective as that they can be, as well as being as motivated, engaged as they can be for serving the mission of your organization and your team. And coaching is such a powerful way to be able to help people to understand their own needs, their motivations, their strengths and their talents, and helping them to figure out their career direction and what their next move might be. And yes, of course, you can bring mentoring skills to this and share your experiences. But what we know from coaching is that when people come up with their own answers and their own solutions, they're so much more empowered to go and take those journeys than perhaps if they have been told. Now, there will always be a role for all of those things. People who are brand new, who don't know anything, you're going to want to give them some instruction around how to do it. Those people who are looking for answers, mentoring might be the case. But for those people who bring loads of talent, and they want to take on a new project, and they want to kind of push forward into, kind of uncharted ground, they probably don't want to be told by you how to do it. What they want is for you to sit and challenge them and hold space and encourage them and champion them. And that is the role of a coach. So there's always different levers you can pull in an organization and as a leader. But as a leader, coaching is absolutely a lever that we believe all leaders should be equipped to have.
And I can think about some other obvious examples as well. So, for example, exit interviews. I think about when people leave organizations, and how do we help people to leave well? Like, it can be a great thing if people decide to leave because there's an opportunity somewhere else. How do we enable them to leave positively? How do we ensure that they can make that transition in the way that they want to? Think about people returning to work. So think about people returning from maternity or paternity leave, for example, and actually taking the time to explore with them, what do they need? How are they feeling about returning to work? What sort of support do they want? And that may be loads, or it may be nothing, but we don't know. And I think a coaching approach in the workplace is a personalized approach. That for me is the differential. So it's not treating everybody the same, but it's about really getting to know, taking the time to get to know each individual's needs, and then exploring how that individual or you supporting them can enable those needs to be met. And what we're finding is that whilst we have open access training programs, so we have individuals coming from organizations, we've also seen a number of people come from the same organization to train. But we are also see people who, want to actually bring us in to train whole groups of people in organizations because they want to introduce a coaching culture. And, they've created a plan around how they're going to do that, which is multifaceted. We've got that out. In the sense that it isn't just coaching training. That's not the be all and end all. There are so many other things that need to be plugged in order to be able to successfully introduce and embed a coaching culture. But coaching training for a number of people starts to, can start and contribute to shifting that.
I think coaching training or coming and learning some coaching skills is fundamental leadership development. And we know that, high achieving leaders, they love to learn, they love to be challenged, they want to grow, they want to learn new skills. And I think you reach a certain point in your career where you've gone on lots of different courses to develop your functional skills, and you start to take on roles, and you're going into different projects and you're learning on the job. But at some point you want a crunchy, challenging learning experience. And where do you go to get that? And I think coaching training is what it sort of plugs that gap for leaders who are ambitious and, you know, love learning, is to come on a coaching training really with no other agenda than to learn and challenge and grow, and know that you can obviously you know, bring the skills back into the organization to benefit your teams. And so I think that's where coaching training sort of sits in the pipeline of, you know, growth as a leader. But at some point on your journey as a leader, coming and gaining coaching skills is going to be a great learning opportunity for you.
Yeah. And if I think about kind of accreditations that are known in workplaces, if you think about best companies to work for or investors in people, gold standard, I think you'll find that coaching is part of what will enable you to do really well in terms of an organization, because what it demonstrates when you invest in coaching for individuals or teams or a coaching culture is that well-being and performance tend to improve in an aligned way, which is really, I think, what a lot of organizations are looking for.
And going back to what you mentioned around kind of training groups of internal coaches, it's probably worth sharing that it's not the only answer, in that actually when you train internal coaches, you are going to have a conflicts of interest. So it's not that you have internal coaches and they can coach everybody, because that you do want to be able to create safe spaces still. So you wouldn't want your internal coach knowing, like your line manager, for instance. So the matching of your internal coaches to the people that that you coach would need some addressing. And I think when you come and you on one of our programs and train as a coach, you will learn the ethics of how to, you know, implement coaching well within an organization by learning what is and isn't appropriate. But it is such a powerful way to leverage the potential of the leaders within an organization, to have them be able to share even just an hour a month with somebody from a totally different department, totally different bit of the business, to help coach them, you know, through, you know, their goals and their aspirations for their career. It's just a brilliant way to use that talent within an organization.
Yeah, when we design and facilitate leadership development programs, it's always underpinned by coaching psychology and also one-to-one coaching to support those individuals. And that's what you'll tend to find with most leadership development programs. There will be elements of that one-to-one coaching. So they're really practical things that you can use in terms of using coaching skills in the workplace. So when we talked about managers facilitating conversations with their teams, you can use the GROW model, you know, saying to, okay, well, I've got 10 minutes. What does success look like at the end of that 10 minutes? And they can say, okay, well, I'd like to have an answer on this. Say, okay, so what's the current reality? Oh, this has happened, that's happened. Okay, so what have you thought through already? Right. And then you can ask questions to elicit other options. And then that person can decide on their way forward with that. So the GROW model can be used in lots of different ways in that sense. But you might also use coaching skills when you are supporting individuals on PIPs, performance improvement plans. And really it's about empowering individuals to identify what is it that they want to have happen, what support do they need. So it's really directed around that rather than the tell approach. It's the ask.
I think it's also with the team, helping the team to understand all their own individual values, and then where are the crossovers, and how do you create like team charters that help people to feel like they belong. As you know, there's just so many different places where coaching skills come in. And so if you're listening to this and you're a leader and you're thinking, oh, maybe I should, you know, get some coaching training, we are still onboarding people onto our coaching training programs that kick off in March, so you can join us there. But come and do our quiz, you know, come and find out, is there a coaching course that's right for me? And you can complete that at mycoachingcourse.com and explore if coaching training is something for you.
And if you're looking for a more bespoke approach, then feel free to reach out to us and we can talk to you about what you might want to design for your organization or team.